Good night, everyone. Good night. Good night. Good night, everyone. Welcome to another session of Leading with Light. I want to welcome all those who have joined. I am unable to share my camera. I'm having that issue. Nothing is wrong with my camera on my laptop, but for some reason, our stream is giving me an issue with sharing my camera, and so I am unable to share my camera with you. I'm trying to have the issue sorted out, but until then, I must say again, thank you for joining. Today, we are gonna be looking at a topic that many persons need, and this is a topic that is following our topic from last week, which talked about the 5 leadership traps. And so today, we want to follow up that presentation with the 5 ways that we can sustain light and joy in our relationships. And so we want to work with that. All right, for those who don't know me, I am Dr. Marcia Thomas. I'm a Christian leadership coach, and I'm also a faith-based consultant. All right, I'm going to be adding the presentation to the screen. Thank you for joining. Jackie, I see you. I see you, Frank. I see you, Simone. Let me add my presentation. I'm uploading it so we can begin our discussion. So for those, as I said before, who don't know me, I'm Dr. Marcia Thomas, Christian leadership consultant and life coach. I empower executive leaders and educational leaders over 40 to actually lead with light, to stop normalizing exhaustion, and also tap into their purpose and calling and claim peace so that they can create a legacy that is sustainable and lasting while making sure that their joy and peace is in alignment with their purpose. So what am I saying really? I allow faith-based leaders, I equip them to lead as excellent leaders without losing their soul. And that is very important, extremely important for those who understand leadership and the framework of leadership in today's society. Thank you for joining Jahan's name. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Iman. I want to stick with that. It's so good to have you all joining. I appreciate the fact that you're taking the time out to join. All right, I want to start with a quote that's very important for life and for leadership, because we talk about all things life and leadership in our presentation. If you are able to hear me, please indicate in the chat for me. Just say you're hearing in the chat, because I want to make sure that you're hearing me. And please share the link and wake up the others who are supposed to be coming. No one is hearing? Are you hearing? Can somebody indicate if they're hearing me? I would love to be sure. I want to appreciate that. Anybody hearing me? All right. So I recognize you're hearing me. We are what we repeatedly do. And so excellence is not an act, but a habit. And that is the voice of Aristotle. We are what we repeatedly do. And so excellence is not a act, it's a habit. So what we repeatedly do becomes a habit. What is a habit? When we remove the H, we have a bit. And then if we remove the A, we have bit. We remove the B and we have it. It is something that we do over and over consistently. It might just be small things. It might just be a routine. It might just be something or an action that we take over and over consciously and unconsciously. And that is something that we do for such a long time that it becomes fortified in our spirit and becomes almost synonymous with our personality, with our genes, with our mindset, and with our actions. So we automatically or instinctively move along because it becomes one with us. And that is why we are to ensure that we create good habits, we maintain good habits, we nurture good habits, because that's what wise leaders do. And that is how they protect their energy. And today I want to really focus on that. That is the focus, that's the goal. To answer the question, the overarching question, how do wise leaders protect their energy and sustain their purpose? And I also want to present some strategies that help leaders maintain their strength, their clarity, and joy while leading others. Because the reality is, the fact is, leadership should not extinguish your light, it should help it shine brighter. And if you agree with me, just put agree in the chat. Really appreciate your participation. If you agree with me, just type agree in the chat. All right, so I want to ask a question because we have established that a routine is something that is fortified in your spirit that becomes almost one with you. And so if this routine is built on a good habit, that is the difference that separates the most successful among us from everyone else. Your habits, what you do consistently, what you do over and over, and how you do it. So I want to start with a question. When was the last time you felt truly energized by your leadership? Thank you for joining. Shizan, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, for a hand. And thank you for agreeing. When was the last time you felt truly energized by your leadership? Not just productive, not just busy. I'm talking about deeply energized by the difference you were making. Because the fact is, many leaders start their journey with passion and purpose. They want to inspire others, they want to create change, they want to lead with impact. So they start as a young or new leader with such great enthusiasm, unbeatable motivation, untiring inspiration. Nothing can actually, when they started out as a leader, nothing could really deter them. All things were possible. But somewhere along the way, the weight of responsibility grew heavy. The expectations increase and become overwhelming. And your pace accelerates as a leader. And as we said last week, it begins to take an emotional toll on you. So you become emotionally overloaded. You have to have so much passion. you actually have decision fatigue because you're pulling so many directions and are expected to become all things to all men and solve so many different problems because you are hearing so many voices, the call of so many voices. And I'm talking to a leader tonight that's really talking about leadership, and who is exhausted and has normalized leadership exhaustion to the point that you are calling it leadership, good leadership. Because in today's world, exceptional leaders are those who keep growing, the aggressive, those who never waver, who ignore self-care and family obligations. Those who show up and always present, has it all together, very productive, very busy, and busy is in quotes. Always in your board meeting, always looking at your calendar, touching the ground the first thing in the morning, looking at your cell phone instead of yourself, your life, your family. If you're one of those leaders, after you have settled down in leadership, you'll find that the energy that once flowed your leadership begins to fade. It fades so slowly that you begin to understand your disconnect when things begin to slow down, when things begin to be not as meaningful, when your disillusionment and that comes from betrayal and the calls and the voices and the ungratefulness that seems to be out there gets very heavy. I say that too, Jason. I don't like saying I'm busy or I'm productive. You know, the right words to really frame it could be that you're impactful and that you are progressing, that you're making the change, that you are intentionally and strategically getting things done, that you're very prescriptive, and that you are actually focusing on what is truly important, or you are immersing in what is really adding value in the moment. Because as leaders, our calendars are always full, and we need to prioritize our goals. We need to prioritize what is needed out there. So we want to make sure that we fill out those gaps. But the truth is that leadership doesn't become exhausting because leaders lack commitment. It becomes exhausting because leaders really learn how to protect their energy. And we have to protect our energy. Thank you so much, Jason. We have to protect our energy, especially now when leadership has become so unpredictable and so complex. And the problems that leaders now solve, even with expertise and experience, are so different and requires you to be more flexible and open-minded, more innovative and more creative, that every single leader, whether you're a beginning, you're a middle, or you're experienced, now have to test themselves to see what they can produce. And we finally and constantly now find ourselves learning to swim. We have to be getting refresher courses, because I always say no one learns to swim on land. You have to get into the water. And if leadership is transformational, if it is interactive, if it is collaborative, if it is compassionate, if it is strategic, if it is emotionally balanced, if leadership is to be sustainable, leadership must always ask how and must always answer why. Thank you, Jackie. So we must always answer the why. And so, because we'll rarely learn how to protect our energy because we are pulled in so many directions, we want to talk about the 5 habits that wise leaders practice to sustain their purpose and protect their joy. And no more than ever, we have to sustain our purpose and protect our joy so that leadership remains meaningful, deeply meaningful, and change lives and change outcomes. And that's the reality. And so let's look at what I call the leadership reality. Leadership reality today is that it is extremely demanding. It is now more demanding than ever. Why? Because we have so many leaders in the different organization and leadership is so scarce. Let me repeat that. There are so many leaders all around, but leadership in itself is scarce. Another reason why leadership is demanding, another stark reality of leadership that is becoming more and more obvious, is that we face constant decision making. Even when you have it patched, your budget is in place, your calendar items are good, your systems are streamlined, your calendar is full, very structured, your goals and objectives are there, your observables are right in place, your accountability matrix stream is right there, the pace of the outcomes and achievement of those outcomes, which we call your action plan, is right there. And what you would call your improvement plan, your plan that you put in place to help your crisis and to put those things out there to mitigate what is likely to happen in your industry. So you are able to predict, and based on your predictions, you have some stop gaps there that we call our action plan and our assessment margins. And we know what it is that we want to achieve because of the constant decision making that this requires, because you are dealing with human beings, which is a dynamic interchange. And even if you introduce AI, it will take some time for it to take root. And it also depends on the type of industry that you're in. If it's a service industry, if it deals with professional outcomes and services, if it is training, if it is coaching, if it is requires mentorship or support, then even with the introduction or integration of AI, that human touch is crucial. And so there are high expectations that are put on you in 2025 that were never there in 2020 up to 2024. The emotional responsibility for team is also becoming greater because emotional intelligence is now a key factor in organizations where persons are mentally strapped, financially strapped, emotionally strapped. And as it is said, expert fatigue is becoming an issue because you have to be competing with so many persons who know as much as you because of AI. The danger is that AI gives them competence, but they lack experience. And so the problem solving that is required in organizations at this time create the demand that pressures leaders, that exhaust leaders, and that beat down leaders because everybody now has what is called a premature appointment, and everybody feels that even if they lack the experience, the competence that is what I call fake competence that is generated from the integration of AI makes persons in organizations unwilling to wait their turn. And so there is this pressure to perform because persons are no longer focused on collaborative leadership as teams, but are actually forced to become competitive. And that is a danger that we need to avoid. The truth is, because of these variables, sustainable leadership requires renewal in your home, as your children grow, as the demands are pulled on you as a wife, a sister, a sibling to lead yourself and your family, your community and your organization. You find that it now requires consistent renewal as much as you're consistently having to put out, to show up, to be present, to be productive, but really exhausted. And so we understand that leadership is not a sprint, it's a long journey. And so wise leaders have to learn how to protect their energy while maintaining excellence and nurturing your soul. Hi, Felipe. Thank you so much for joining. So many of you have taken the time tonight. I truly appreciate it. So, number one, you have to look at being willing to share both what you have mastered and that which you are still perfecting. How do you do that? You reconnect with your purpose. Understand your why. So you have to identify your why. You have to accept and own your why. And you have to understand your why. And you have to live your why. And that why is very much integrated into your mindset and your values. Purpose is not as prescriptive as persons think. It is established by God and the universe. It is a contract, a divine contract between you and God and the universe. And of course, I have said that I am a faith-based coach. Before you were born, God knew you and He established your end. And He gave you and placed you in your family, the family that you were born in, by default or by love. It was not an accident. You were born in the time you were born. You were born in the family you were born. And you were given a particular gifts and talents from both genes, environment, determination to serve in a particular way. So you were sent to a particular set of persons, which we call their niche. And when you understand your why, you know who you are to serve and how you are to serve them and when you are to serve them, because you go through a preparation. So purpose doesn't happen before preparation. And we know that if we look at the many examples in the Bible, we know Moses took 40 years. He had so many things that he had to do, first of all. Many mistakes he had to make because in the preparation, his purpose was established and he came to do what he was required to do, save Israel, carry Israel to a certain point. Jesus himself lived here for 30 years, went through hardship and actually healed and did so many things, but his purpose was really to die on the cross. And so he could save us. When you're ready and you understand your purpose, when you know your why and understand your why, then that is when you go out there and you live your why. So you're prepared in private, but your why, your purpose becomes valuable in public, in the public. So whatever we begin, whatever experiences, whatever we share is our purpose. Now, a lot of persons mix up their role with their purpose. A lot of leaders, their title and their responsibilities and their role, and they become confused and think it is your purpose. Your role, your responsibility, your title is not your purpose. And so you were born with the capacity to do anything, but you were never created to do everything. And the problem with leadership and the ownership trap is that we want to do everything and be all things to all men. And we looked at that last week. We want to understand that if we are able to identify our purpose, understand our purpose and our why, and live that why, then leadership becomes stewardship. But without that, leadership becomes pressure because we take up assignments that were never given to us. And we take responsibility for every outcome. And we become accountable to every single person. So I want to ask the question, when did you start leading? Why did you start leading? Because sometimes when we understand those things, we are able to move. When did you start feeling overwhelmed by your expectations and responsibilities? And I'm moving slowly because I want us to think about it. Because that is the question we want to answer. How can you protect your energy and reconnect with your purpose? So here I go with the purpose. Leadership today is demanding, but it involves both strategic thinking and emotional resilience. That's what we're about. The strategic thinking and emotional resilience come from intentional habits. And without these intentional habits, leaders can become easily exhausted. Not knowing your why, not understanding your why, and understanding your why, as I say, knowing who you are called to serve and why you are to serve these persons and how you are to serve them and when you are to serve them, because so many leaders suffer from premature appointment. Sustainable leadership, as we have said before, requires renewal. And we know that renewal is important. There are times when we have to set ourselves aside. That's why we have vacations. That's why we have time off. That's why we have leaves that are embedded in our organizations, paid and unpaid. And there is no merit and there's no badge of honor when we send back all our vacation. There are some persons who pat themselves and feel very comfortable and feel that they are unique and exceptional because in the 40 years that they have worked in the organization, they have never been absent, they have never been late, they have never been sick, they have never called out sick. Awesome. Great. Impressive. But when did you take the time out for renewal? Because I'm sure that even when we collapse and the 2 minutes of silence is done, if you are embraced by every person in your organization, that you can't ask a question. You never ask a question on your deathbed. How is it that you want your work to go, or what is it that you have accomplished? You don't talk about that on your deathbed. You talk about wanting to spend more time with your family. I'm talking about leaders now, and the regrets that you have, that you never focus on what truly mattered instead of having your organization manage you. Because those who have never been late, never been absent, never called out sick, those who have always showed up even when they never felt like it or their body was saying to them, calling out to them, I need a break. Your organization was managing you. You were not managing your organization. You were a servant and a slave. You were fully embedded in the ownership trap. Because as a steward, your organization can endure your silence or your absence because of the systems that you have put in place. When you understand what stewardship means, allowing people to test themselves to see what they can produce, delegating responsibility based on motivation and expertise, trusting persons by sharing your authority and sharing your responsibilities. So you call that shared leadership. Collaborating with persons and giving them room to be flexible, innovative, and creative. As we looked at last week, if your organization depends on you alone and cannot endure your absence, then you're a danger, the greatest danger to your organization. And so leadership longevity depends on renewal, reflection, and spiritual grounding. So that is why we say you are to reconnect with your purpose, reconnect with your original motivation and your calling, because purpose provides clarity and resilience during very difficult and complex, changeable times. Then we want to set some healthy boundaries, because as a leader, you cannot do everything, and boundaries actually protect your energy. It protects your time. It protects your focus. And it builds your leadership truth. So I know as a leader that you feel you must always be available as a final accountable manager. But being always available is really different from micromanaging, because you can be available without being present, because you have created the systems to withstand your silence. So you, as a wise leader, you want to set those boundaries by creating the systems that allow you to sustain your impact long term and not just short term. How do you do that? You equip your team. You focus on your collaborative leadership where all minds are appreciated. Everybody feel loved and respected, and everybody buying, so that you are not reliant on loyalty and commitment. You are actually intact, and your impact is actually guaranteed by expertise. So expertise must come before loyalty and commitment. And trust and respect and value will cement loyalty and merge expertise smoothly. Because many experts and experienced individuals in our organizations leave our organizations because they do not feel valued or appreciated. They feel overwhelmed because too much is expected of them, and the reward for them showing up, being present, and being excellent is more work, not more appreciation, more work, more deadlines, more expectations. And that can cause a disconnect, that can cause persons to become disillusioned and also very disgruntled. And the disgruntled team member, middle manager, operating in what we call the informal system of any organization, can shake the foundations. And so we want to create those boundaries, because when we give away our boundaries, we give away our life. And so that's one of the reasons why in leadership right now, our open door policy must become strategically open and not wide open. Because you cannot be all things to all men, and you cannot do everything. There is a time that you must set apart so that you can protect your time, protect your focus, and protect your energy. And so if you cannot give an answer today, if you cannot make that decision because it's not urgent, it's not a priority, then you must have the safeguards that say to persons, I need some time to focus and think about this. These are the things that we have prioritized today, because there are team members that will come to you to say, we are not able to speak to you as we used to, we miss you, or I just want to run this by you. If it is not on the priority list for you on your daily calendar to push, if it is not an emotional issue where a team member has a personal emergency or a department crisis, because these things are unexpected and can overthrow your priority list and place itself at the top, then you need to kindly set that boundary to say, we are not focused on that today, but we will fit it in tomorrow. These are the issues that we want to deal with today. These are the outcomes that we want to fulfill. These are the expectations that are upon us based on our needs and based on what needs to happen. All right? So we want to understand why we set those boundaries. That's the second habit that we need to have, being able to say no, the holy no, the sacred no, so that persons don't become truly dependent on us or feel that we are always available to do everything. Because we did say that when we micromanage, last week we said it, and when we do everything and every decision has to pass by us, experts, capable persons, motivated persons, loyal, committed persons, just wait. You put them in a wait mode, because they know that even if they take the initiative, you might change their outcome, you might question, you might nitpick. And so they are gradually shut down because they are not able to test themselves to see what they can produce. They are not able to be innovative. They are not able to be creative. They are not able to enjoy what they know they can do, because you feel you must do everything and you must be the final authority, and it must pass through you. All things must pass through you. And it must be done exactly how you would do it. And that can frustrate great and loyal and committed experts in your organization. The next habit that you want to do to, as a wise leader, is that you want to invest in relationships. No man is an island. No man stands alone. Each man's joy is joy to me, and each man's grief is my own. We need one another. So we can have each man as your brother and each man as your friend. Leadership should not be carried alone. As we said last week, two are better than one. And God did not create us to carry leadership alone, and isolation is a major contributor to leadership exhaustion. The fact is, community strengthens perspective and support, and so leaders must build what I call a community of practice. The community of practice must have mentors, persons who you can go to, who have been there, done that, who you meet, who are coming back, and you meet them on the way, so they can guide you and they can help to mitigate the dangers. They can help you to predict, and they can help you to problem solve, and they can help you in your preparation. They can equip you through guided support and intentional focus. Mentors. They can expand your reach and your understanding, and they can gear your interpretations based on their experience and their expertise. So they build your capacity. Mentors. You must have those persons, those types of relationship where persons are able to build your capacity. Nobody knows everything. And so you must be able and open to learn. You must have your trusted advisors, those who you can bare your soul to as a leader, because leadership has so many gripes. Those you can bare your soul to when you feel betrayed or you feel unappreciated also as a leader. When you're accused, because you have to make those hard decisions for the best interest of all, and not just for the good of some. When you cannot get or meet your consensus with your team, when you have persons who rub you the wrong way, that you are praying survival prayers and not want to come to work. You must have trusted advisors who you can bear your soul, who can understand your tears, and also be objective enough to present the truth to you when you need it. We call that investing in relationships, which is a habit that you must have. And trusted advisors, many times as leaders, can't be your partner, because when you're hurting, they hurt also. But if they are mature enough, they can be. Family members might find that emotionally they make decisions from emotions rather than logic. So your trusted advisors must be from the core of those who are able to hear the truth, see the truth, and understand the truth. So whatever you're saying to them, they must be able to read beyond the surface. They must be able to listen to what is said and what is not said, and they must be able to guide you, to connect you, and ground you. Then you have the supportive teams in your workplace and outside of your organization that you can always go to for mutual accountability, for innovation, for collective decision making, for collective capacity building, and for productivity and the natural outcomes, and also for the merging of minds and ideas. especially for complex problems. And so you must build your team. They must feel protected. They must have room to make mistakes and errors. They must be able to vent. You must listen to what they are saying. And you must guard their reputation more than anything else, meaning the weaknesses that are established must be highlighted with mutual respect and understanding. And there must be systems in place to give them the required support without them feeling judged, criticized, or harassed. So, what am I saying? In supportive teams, dignity must be maintained in all circumstances. So, we move now to habit 4. We're doing nicely, we're working with the time. So, habit 4, that every wide leader must have to protect their energy and their joy, is that they must practice reflection and renewal. You know, great leaders pause. And this pause is intentional and very focused. It's not when you're collapsing or when your body just stops or there is so much burnout that chronic fatigue pulls you onto your bed, because there are so many aches and pains and so much frustration and so often you feel so sick. There are headaches and so on. But when you go to the doctor, they are not able to pinpoint what is wrong because you're really not sick. Your body just needs to pause. There is this emotional overload. There is the decision fatigue. There is compassion fatigue because you're just finished dealing with a crisis and you have not taken the time to pause. You just keep going because that is what is required to be an exceptional or a great leader. Showing up and being present, being productive, meeting deadlines and outcomes, being a good role model, and making sure that what you require of your team, you are showing up for everyone except yourself. You want to reflect. You want to have moments where you pray and where you recharge. One of the greatest ways to reflect and renew your energy, your clarity, and your focus, and reconnect to your purpose is through journaling. Journaling covers so many gaps. Journaling helps you to have your quiet reflection. It pulls you into self awareness and personal development, and it pushes you into understanding your focus and understanding your why. And so, those are practices that you must have for reflection and renewal. So, you have to ask yourself some hard questions and you have to make it a practice, whether it is you do it at the end of the month, the end of the week, or the end of the day. I normally do it at the end of the day. I normally reflect and renew myself at the end of the day. I take my time out, I turn my phone off, I do my prayer session, or I do my meditation, or I use my music to ground me, and I ask myself some questions that renew my focus and my clarity and remind me of my purpose. Then you want to have the habit where you focus on your impact as a steward. You steward the mission, you don't own it, because anybody can become a leader tomorrow, can take your place, can have your title, can be given your authority, but no one can be given your purpose. And so when you focus on the impact, changing lives and changing outcomes, you begin to build your legacy. Because when you change lives and when you change outcomes, when you leave an institution or an organization better than than how you came, that is the impact. So you want to focus on that impact and not on the perfection, because perfection exhausts leaders. So you do what you can and show up as your best self each day. So you can't have all the answers, and that's why you have supported teams and mentors and advisors and team members. That is why organization has departments and different persons with different expertise, gifts, and talents. And so you want to make progress based on your action plans, based on the needs, and you want to look at your influence and your impact more than your title and your authority, and what you can do as against what you should do, and how you should treat people the way you want to be treated. Was the situation reversed? So you want to focus on your leadership growth, the value that you leave behind, your aroma, rather than leadership perfection. Leaders are taught that you can't be vulnerable, but vulnerability is a plus in any organization, because it makes people, when you make persons know what you have mastered and what you're still perfecting, they feel that you understand where they are, that you are in fact human, and that they can trust you. So leaders who make that critical shift and have those habits know and begin to be wise. They begin to protect their time, they begin to protect their energy. As they are able to do that, they are able to lead with clarity. They are able to inspire others. They become wiser and make wiser decisions. They sustain their impact and they build their legacy. And so, what are the key takeaways? Tonight, we want to remember that leadership energy must be protected. Leadership is really demanding, and without intentional habits, even passionate leaders can become exhausted, especially now. Leadership is perfected through your understanding of your purpose, because purpose fuels sustainable leadership. So when you reconnect with your calling, your work becomes meaningful rather than burdensome. You are not burdened with the performance, and you are not pressured to perform, because you're stewarding your calling. You are not owning it. You understand that you're a steward, and that this is what you're called to do, and how you're called to do it, and who you're called to serve. Boundaries are essential for longevity. Wise leaders recognize that protecting their time and energy allows them to serve others more effectively. And then leadership is stronger in community. So we say you're to build community. You should never carry the weight of leadership alone. There must be mentorship, collaboration, and support, which is very vital. But it must be strategically embraced. It must be intentional. It must be focused. It must add value. It should not shrink you to fit in. Renewal strengthens leadership clarity. Practices such as reflection, prayer, and rest restore your energy and provide you with perspective. All right. Finally, impact matters more than perfection. You must focus on your growth and your influence, because that is stewardship, rather than trying to meet impossible standards. You are not to set them for yourselves, neither are you to set them for your team members. And we looked at that in essence last week. So we want to do some reflection as we go. Which of these habits do you need most right now? Think about it. Is it purpose? Is the habit, do you need to develop habits related to your purpose? When was the last time that you intentionally reflected on why you lead and the impact that you want to make? Do you need to develop habits of boundaries because you know why you lead and the impact that you want to make? So you know that. So is it the boundary that is giving you trouble? What is a boundary that you need to establish to protect your energy and focus as a leader? Then if it's not your boundary, who are the mentors, peers, or trusted advisors that support and strengthen your leadership? Do you need to invest in relationships, strategic relationships? Do you need to invest in a community? Because your network is your net worth. Do you need to develop habits of strategic and intentional renewal, self-care and soul care? Because self-care and soul care is as important as self-care, and self-care needs soul care. So what are the daily or weekly practices that you need, that you know can help you to be renewed or can renew your spiritual, emotional, and mental strength? Is it that you need to look at your perspective, so you change your mindset and have a habit where you decide and commit yourself not to lead from pressure? So you want to ask yourself the question, am I leading with the pressure to be perfect or with the desire to make a meaningful impact and leave a legacy of authenticity, adding value, changing lives, changing outcomes, allowing persons to become masters of their own destiny? You see, when leaders cultivate the right habits, they can lead with clarity, they can lead with strength, and they can have joy. What does that mean? Inspiring others while sustaining your own purpose. So I leave you with this: let your light shine before others, because without emotional renewal, leaders experience this type of fatigue. Without mental and spiritual renewal, you get yourself in problems. You see, leadership should not dim your light. It should amplify it. If this resonated with you and you feel that you need a reset, then you can apply for my faith-based leadership intensive reset, where you receive emotional clarity. It's monthly. You get a strategic map and you get to see your 7-day action steps. We explore the leadership, the burnout, and give you your faith reset guide. This is very important for your reset. If not, you want to go into a longer program, you can join our stewardship accelerator program, the executive stewardship program, which is a 3-month program. You can also grab your copy of My Feet Looks Up and download your free copy of your executive stewardship legacy. You can also DM me, or you can go to my profile on LinkedIn or Facebook and book a clarity session. So I want to say thank you for joining me today for another session of Leading with Light. I want to have a blessed and purposeful Self-Care Tuesday. And I want you to remember that you're not just a leader, you're a divine vessel with a sacred assignment. God doesn't want us to serve from empty. He wants us to serve from overflow. Have a great night, everyone, and thank you so much, Jason. Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Frank, Simone, all those who joined on YouTube, and all those who will be looking at the the replay, I want to thank you so much. Have a good night until we next week, where we look at everything life and leadership in another exciting, informative, and interactive series. Bye, everyone.